let's do a so that was one fact from a fact check from, I think it was called factcheck.org. Let's do another one here, because there's no end to the lies, the spin, and the dishonesty. This one relates to increase in deaths, because there's a statistic that I saw that I said, just because it confirms what I might be inclined to believe does not mean I'm going to run with it and believe it. And sometimes when they come from certain sources, I'm immediately skeptical, rightly or wrongly. Like there are news outlets, or there are information sources on what I would call the similar ideological perspective that I might be aligned with now, that I still won't believe, because they have unfortunately been guilty of misinformation in the past. Not mentioning any names, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but it's not Rebel News, and it's not True North, and it's Post Millennial. I think had one at one point, but it's not those. It's smaller individuals who I don't want to put on blast, but I still see information from them from time to time. Thank goodness PolitiFact found another explanation to a fact that was initially denied as being true in the first place. If anybody can find me the sources that say no, the 40% increase of all deaths in insurance was not true. If anybody can find that for me, because I know that I saw it, I just can't find it now. Please tag me, send it to me. I'd love to have it for my Twitter diary. But no, the Fauci isn't responsible for an increase in deaths. There's a good explanation here, by the way, which might, in fact, even in my mind, confirm this fact, this alleged fact. But let's just go to the fact check. The Fauci caused a 40% increase in deaths identified by a life insurance company. How many elements to this question, by the way? We're going to look at this like a lawyer asking a question in a deposition. How many elements are this? You have X caused. That's one element. A 40% increase. That's a second element, because if it's 20%, you can say fake. If it's 35%, you can say fake. So blank caused a certain specific number in deaths identified by a life insurance company. So you have three separate elements here. Any one of which, if it turns out to be true, if it wasn't a life insurance company, but it was, I don't know, let me just think of like an underwriting agency. They might not be a life insurance company, but they might be the ones who determine premiums. It could be a denied statement. If it's 38%, it could be a denied statement. If the increase is in fact accurate and it's confirmed by a life insurance agency, well, darn well they're going to deny it anyhow, because you have to draw the correlation to the cause that's indicated in the header. If your time is short, I take my time like I take me short. One America CEO Scott Davidson said life insurance data indicates, this is from PolitiFact, people, this is not me. This is from PolitiFact. This is not even from One America. This is from PolitiFact. He said that indicates that death rates among working age people, and I believe that's 16 to 40 or 20 to 60. I don't know. It's not old people. It's working age. They'll tell us what the age is somewhere in here. Up 40% compared to pre-pandemic rates. Okay. Social media users have suggested that the Fauci, rather than the illness itself, are responsible for the increase in deaths. Working age people. Don't forget that. This fact check is suggesting that the Rona itself is the cause of the deaths. They're suggesting it here in a demographic which statistically we know has, qualify it yourself, but we know what the statistical rate of death or risk of death is among working age people. We know where the risk goes up 1,000-fold. That's not in working age people by the stats and by the data itself. But this is what they're saying here. So they're saying some social media users, those anti-Vs, those conspiracy Ts. I love this. I'm doing this actually just for fun, by the way. It's not actually. They're saying that some conspiracy theorists, social media users, the anti-vaxxers, they're suggesting it's from the Fauci juice, not from the virus itself, in working age people. Research indicates that COVID-19 is likely responsible for the increase. That's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, we know the stats. We have 2+ years of stats. We know what it is. You can go run working age COVID deaths. You can go look it up yourself. I'm not even going to do it here. But let's just see here. Let's just see where they confirm the fact. What's driving up the death rate? Oh, I love this. PolitiFact and other fact-checking organizations have repeatedly found that there's no basis for the claim. We have not investigated ourselves and found no basis for the claim. Let's just see. So that they're not denying the data. I want to get to the good stuff here because I don't want to read. Lancashire noted that because COVID-19 is a leading cause of death for Americans of all ages, a leading cause of death for Americans of all ages. Try to break that down. The illness would be a factor in increase in deaths. Davidson pulled his 40% increase from third quarter data, which includes July through September, and therefore aligns with a second spike in deaths the CDC identified. Yeah, the second spike. In what age bracket? I'm going to predict that second spike in deaths was not in working aged individuals. I'm going to make that guess. If I'm wrong, people, let me know. Our ruling. Post suggests 40% increase in deaths identified by a life insurance company was from the Fauci rather from the virus. Research indicates that the Rona is likely responsible for the increase, both directly and indirectly. Would indirectly, by the way, include the government response? These bad people. These are very bad people who do this. This now, throwing in the word indirectly, I would say that this is a correct conclusion. Research indicates that COVID-19 is likely responsible for the increase, both directly and indirectly. You know why it's true? Because these liars and dishonest people at PolitiFact will say government response that drove up unemployment, that drove up self-harm, that drove up drinking, that drove up the inability to get diagnosed with diseases, that's indirect COVID. I guarantee you they would make that argument. That's how dishonest they are. And by the way, if that's the argument, they're right. There is no evidence to suggest the V's are to blame. Okay. There's no evidence. Again, I don't know. There's no evidence for that. Although, by the way, even if they were to be to blame, I suspect they would qualify that as indirectly COVID. We rate this claim false. No evidence, they rated false. That's how PolitiFact, these liars, work. No evidence would mean inconclusive. To say something is false, you have to have evidence to show that it's false. In fact, the bulk of the evidence here supports that it's true. But I wouldn't say it's true. I would just say unsubstantiated. It cannot be determined. There's no evidence to suggest this. There's no evidence. There is an absence of evidence. Therefore, it's false. Oh, but it's the Rona, because both directly, which we know to be probably statistically inaccurate, and indirectly, which we don't even know what that means. Outright liars. Sorry. There's no other way. There is no other way to qualify that. That is, maybe I'm just reading too much into it, and it's a little confession through projection, because I still see things through the eyes of a lawyer who knows that lawyers use and abuse of language and wordsmithing specifically for these types of reasonings. And I'm not going to say that I wouldn't be guilty of it myself. I know that when I drafted contracts, I would be meticulous in my wording so that it would cover everything and anything, so that it would protect my client, not so that I could weasel out and say, "Well, it's just directly or indirectly." Everything on earth is indirectly related. Anyways, that's it. It's type 2 diabetes, autoimmune, allergies, memory loss, all parasite symptoms. Medical industry stopped treating them in the 80s and wiped the medical literature. The problem didn't go away. It became profitable. I cannot confirm or deny any of this, Gerald Nadeau, but I do thank you for the chat. Kyle Cowden said, Nietzsche said, I don't believe in God because I don't want to believe in God. That's the fallacy in expecting justice in a fallen world. It is inevitable. You might not realize justice here. Okay, look, I'm going to have to reread that afterwards. I read Nietzsche, didn't understand a lot of it, but I was young at the time. It is inevitable. You might not realize justice here. Okay, now I understood how that last line is meant. Or justice is just living well. Justice is its own reward. Goodness is its own reward. It's very philosophical. One day we'll have a philosophical musing of philosophies, but no evidence is false, people.
Sure we will.
Yeah. No evidence, by the way, and we haven't looked. There's no evidence Joe Biden was involved in Hunter Biden's misdealings, according to John J. Harwood, former journalist, now disguised spokesperson of the White House. Not even a spokesperson, spin master. Because you still expect honesty from a spokesperson, but a paid spin master is what he has. Words matter. If you think they are incompetent, you may be mistaken. They are taking actions that cause deaths without being liable to or prove. They are certainly they are establishing policy that seems to be resulting in an increased death in the year after the policy and while the policy is still ongoing. But that's you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, I guess, right? In order to protect grandma, we have to enact policy that results in an 83% increase in grandchild. Lost bullets. Viva got accepted to law school this morning in Saskatchewan. Can't decide between constitutional law or criminal law. First of all, congratulations. I do remember the day I got into my first university of law, my first university for law, how ecstatic I was, because I remembered at the very least I got into one. I'm going to law school. I don't know why I was so neurotic, because I did relatively well at McGill honors philosophy, but once you get the first insurance school and I don't know, Saskatchewan, I think it's a good school. U of S. Anyways, once you get into one, you're golden. So congratulations. You're lucky. You don't have to decide what you want to practice yet, and nor should you. Lost bullets. I say this with love and respect. You know nothing of the law right now. You know nothing of what you're going to want to practice as a lawyer. You actually need to practice it before you can even determine what field you want to be in. Thinking that anyone in law school first year saying, I want to go into constitutional law, or I want to go into criminal law, or I want to go into family law. You need to see the practice. It's like saying, it's sort of like saying what lake you want to swim in before you know the temperature. Or I'm good to swim in a cold lake without ever having dipped your toes in to see how blisteringly cold, breathtakingly cold it is. But congratulations and enjoy the journey. It's a good one. It's a good one, even if you end up not practicing, doing live streams in your car or your basement. It's a good journey, and the practice of law is good experience to have. A law degree is good experience to have, even if you never practice. Hold on, I just saw something here that I want to see. Curly girl method. Vivi, you should look into trying the curly girl method. I have hair oil upstairs, which I'm going to have to reapply after I exercise today. So that's it. That's the fake fact checkers. It never ends. It never ends because they are paid liars. You don't need to call yourself a fact checker in order to fact check. And I dare say the second you do call yourself a fact checker, and I'm saying this even for myself, it's suspect. Research and just look into it, and you can come to your own conclusions, and other people will as well. But no evidence, therefore false. You're not a fact checker, PolitiFact. You're liars. You're spin masters, and I dare say you are ideologically driven spin masters. Last one. Okay, let me see this. What is not said? Okay, interesting. Not reading it, people, because I don't want to be accused of having promoted medical advice. Thank you. This is the thing. Like every morning I get up and I just don't know if there's going to be what to talk about without getting repetitive. But the dishonesty out there will always give original content to go over and just make sure everybody understands. Half of this is reading comprehension and half of this is due diligence. And it can be trained. And once you acquire the skill, it's like riding a bike. You will never read a headline the same way again. You will never read an article the same way again, because you'll see how it's manipulated. You'll see how it's, what was the one that just came out? Oh, geez, it said the headline. Oh, it was a study. You know what? Let me get to this one. This is a fun one. It was a study that Nate Brody shared, and this is no shade on Nate. I love Nate, and there's no but. He posted a study, which purportedly undermined the efficacy of one of the alternative, one of the taboo treatments to the Rona. And the headline, it's not his fault. This is the way the headline is run versus the article itself. Let me just go to Nate the lawyer. Here we go. Now I got to go down to the study, which was, click the link. Where did I find the original study? Give me a second, people. I saw this before. Click the link. So here we go. So here's the title of this. Is an article from The Hill, because Nate was saying if you're going to discredit the New York Times for bias, The Hill ran the same story. The big I, ineffective at preventing the Rona. So interesting title here, because as far as I ever recollect, no one ever said any of these alternative treatments, which became highly politicized, were good at preventing. The affirmations were that they were potentially effective or potentially beneficial at treating. And look, you don't have to be a lawyer to understand there's a world of difference between prevention and treatment. Now, whether or not, even if you substitute the word, this is the headline. Ineffective at preventing. Thanks, Lisa Simpson. That's the answer to a question nobody asked. What does the article say? Are we going to get there? Okay. In Brazil, they did the study, yada, 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 yada. There are 3,500 people in Brazil. I think there might be a number of issues with the study in terms of this specific medication might have been widely used in Brazil as well. I have to go back and listen to my discussion with Dr. Risch, because I read this afterwards. Okay, let's see here. Here we go. Treatment with did not result in a lower incidence of medical admission to a hospital due to the progression of COVID-19 or prolonged emergency department observation. So basically the conclusion is treatment with versus placebo did not have any noticeable difference. Okay, that's the conclusion. So let me just see where there was. So bottom line, okay, they talk about what it's used for. There was a section where hold on, let me just see if I can find this. Treat. That's the word that we want to see. So go down. Here we go. In Brazil. So here they talk about treatment. So you go to the second paragraph of the article, which is headlined ineffective at preventing. And then you see that they already subtly go into treating and not prevention. That was the object of the study. How does the Hill, I don't care if it's left or right, how does the Hill run that headline? Because that headline's inaccurate. Nobody made this statement. It was useful at prevention. The disputed statement was it might be beneficial at treatment. The conclusion of this study says no meaningful difference. Hold on, that stupid phone. It's a talking phone, and I hate it.
Sure, buddy. Talking phone now. Holy
Apparently
moly.
It's the door that's talking again. Okay, so I'm gonna have to disable that stupid
talking
phone.
A talking door.
Treatment. So the first distinction. Now the conclusion of the study,
what
ineffective.
Are we gonna have next?
No difference. I want to close this without closing the
I have a talking
tweet.
door. I have a talking
Then I went because someone said go to the New England Journal of Medicine.
There?
That's the article where they published it, and just go look at the actual findings.
Mind you,
which I did.
Somebody's got to be phoning
because
in order
I don't
for that
trust
to work.
Anybody or anything. This was the conclusion from the actual publication in New England Journal of Medicine.
Oh my.
Total of 3,515 patients were randomly assigned to receive the medicine. 679.
What do we have?
Placebo, 679, or another intervention, 2,157. I'm curious as to how you ethically say some of you are going to get a treatment, which we think might be effective, and some of you are going to be, you're not going to know. Bottom line. So let me rephrase. I don't know how they have a placebo group for treatment for an illness. I don't know ethically how that works, but setting that aside. Over 100 patients, 14.7%, in the ivermectin group had a primary outcome event. So that in my mind means something serious or hospitalization, as compared with
Viva
111,
Frei,
16.3% in the placebo group. And you see how they're measuring this now. So they're measuring the 100 and 111 in the overall in the overall 3,000 and not against each other.
What are we going to do here, folks?
Again, look, I'm just a lawyer. I just know how the questions I would ask of an expert if I were cross-examining them or prepping them and trying to understand their findings. They come to the conclusion that the 2.3% differential, which is itself based on the aggregate 3,000, which includes the 2,100 that got other, is insignificant. I look at it and I say 100 patients versus 111, that's upwards of a 10% differential among the relevant groups. So is that insignificant? I don't know. That's the question that I ask. I'm not sure I understand the methodology or how they could administer a placebo to sick patients, but 111 primary outcome events or placebo group versus 100, it seems to be like a noticeable difference to me. And then there's the issue also when they mention here, they mention hospitalizations
And I'll
afterwards.
be right back.
Oh, here we go. Of the 211 primary outcome events, that's 211 including placebo and ivermectin, 81% were hospital admissions. But in the New England Journal, I didn't see what percentage of the 81% of hospital admissions were placebo versus treatment of those two groups. So that's the question that I have to ask. And all that to say, yeah, statistics lie. The three types of lies: lies, damn lies, and statistics. And I'm curious when they say, it's funny how you can measure it to come out with a statistically insignificant difference when you go 111 versus 110 of 3,000 versus when you just compare 111 of 110 seems to be 11 of 100 or 11 of 111, however you want to do it, is roughly 10% difference, which is significant. It's not insignificant to me. I'm in my dumb mind, I may be wrong, and I'd love for someone to tell me why I am. Many studies show effective at prevention. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. The study has many flaws. Dr. Ruchi, yeah, I know that he mentioned it. I have to go back and listen to it now, having read that particular study, which I think is new. Oh God, sorry. Someone told me, I got an email politely reminding me not to crack my knuckles during a stream. It's a habit, people. It's not deliberate or conscientious or conscious. I mean, I know when I'm doing it, but yep. Okay, so that's that. That's another one of the interesting, like, got to read things, get past the headline, because the headline says something which the body doesn't say. The body says something which the original source material doesn't seem to say. And you go to the source material and you have questions which were supposed to be answered by the bloody article in the first place. ECFMG, emergency care for Michigan Grande. I have no idea. I'm gonna have to look up what ECFMG means. U.S. doctor match program. Not accepting anyone with Russian passport, blocking every single Russian doctor while country is at a massive shortage. Humans are not the smartest animal on earth. They're so silly that they think they are. I mean, there's nothing you can say. Nothing you can say to that.
It's Los Angeles, folks.
Give me 1 second here. I'm just going to go back and
this is Los Angeles.
Find another thing here. 30 seconds, people.
Hello.
Channel. Okay, here. I'm going to pull up another article for the next thing that we're doing, which is
see what happens.
I'm gonna endlessly make the joke about firing the producer, or the producer's got to move faster. Okay, here we go. What was next on the list? Share screen.
There's Google. Okay. See you later, Google.
Now we read the fact check there. Oh yeah, the let's go with the comic relief. We're about an hour in, and we want to make this we want to lighten this up a little bit.
Comic relief.
I don't know if it's been said before.
Yes, it is.
And you know, it was the day before yesterday. I had what I think was an original. I would say an original thought, but I think it was a thought that other people will have or may have had. But I think I was early on in catching it about the Disney exec saying, you know, we're going to insist on a certain amount of LGBTQIA cast or characters, or or both. And I was like, yeah, that's going to actually promote dishonesty. It's going to promote grooming of sorts by asking people to confirm or prove that they are of the orientation that they say they are. And it's also going to condition people to, to aspire to that if they have certain professional aspirations. All around,
what is this?
It's going to prove to be more conditioning and grooming. If that's what it's intended to do, I don't know. But a relatively original thought that even Dan Bongino picked up on and thought was a brilliant, if I may say so myself. What the heck was I saying? Oh yeah, no. So another one of I think it's original, is that arrogance and ignorance are the most dangerous combination in a human. I suspect someone else might have had to have said it, but speaking of arrogance and ignorance embodied in one individual, I mean, look at Gavin Newsom right here. First of all, if one is going to pose for a picture, and pose in such a manner, I mean, it has to be clearly ironic or comical, and not seemingly serious. Like, there is no element of humor or satire in here that would lend me to come to the conclusion that Gavin Newsom took this picture, made this post with any element of humor or self-deprecating. I'm pretending to be serious when I'm actually not a serious human being. This is a man who seems to think he's a comic book hero, but to me actually looks more like the comic book villain. But setting that aside, that might be my own personal bias, because he does remind me of Bruce Wayne, the guy who played Bruce Wayne,
a personal bias,
who has a temper. What's his name?
If we use that,
the guy that played Batman, Christopher. Hold on, I'm not gonna be happy unless I see this. Who played Batman? Christian Bale. Christian Bale, is that it? I think that's it.
Yeah, he's one.
He does remind me. He gives off a there we go. Thank you. He gives off a very Christian Bale vibe. But I see Christian Bale more in American Psycho than Batman. Setting that aside, here's his tweet. This is a man who's grossly ignorant, grossly arrogant, and probably thinks, and rightfully so, that he's above the law. But setting that aside, reading some banned books to figure out what these states are so afraid of. I don't know what states he's referring to, but I think he thought he was targeting Florida. And now let's go look at these books. I think the bottom one is Der Maus or Mouse. I'm fairly certain it is. In fact, it is. It's art and looks like mouse. I can't tell what the one under there is. The beige one. 1984. I definitely know. To Kill a Mockingbird. I definitely know. Beloved, Toni Morrison. I had to look up. It's a book about slavery. Pulitzer Prize winning. I didn't know that book, but I'm not the most well-read person on earth, regardless.
Neither am I.
But imagine Gavin Newsom, thinking this is a gotcha at what I think is Florida, reading some banned books to figure out what these states are so afraid of. Are you admitting, Gavin Newsom, that you had, prior to this staged, arrogant photo where you seem to be, are you at the French Laundry? That was my joke. It's like, looks like he's at the French Laundry because he's not home. Nobody does this at home. I mean, unless you're, sorry, I don't want to judge anybody who does that at home. Let me stop there. Nobody does this at home. He's at a restaurant. This is a man who's sitting at a restaurant, sleeves rolled up like he's a damn rock star. He's in good shape. Give him credit for that. He's physically, and you can tell by his face, he's in good shape. He's getting up there and saying, I have never read To Kill a Mockingbird or 1984 or Mouse. Mouse I could understand. I know we read it when we were kids. My dad had it in the house. I know we read it. I didn't find anything shocking about it ever. I don't remember very much about it. I just remember the depiction, the animal depiction of humans. I read 1984. I know I read To Kill a Mockingbird. I don't remember a darn thing about it. But imagine being the governor of California saying, hey, I'm going to go read these books for the first time, presumably, to see what these states are so afraid of. That's the first aspect of this, the arrogance and the ignorance of I've never read these classics. And now I'm going to go ahead for the first time to find out why they're being banned. Oh, I'm sorry.
Where are they being banned? Subjective and arbitrary.
Apparently,
David,
Gavin Newsom doesn't realize it was California that banned To Kill a Mockingbird. Arrogance and ignorance, the worst combination. And I pulled an article from 2020. Schools in Burbank will no longer be able to teach a handful of classic novels, including Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, following concerns raised by parents over racism. Trying to figure out what these states are so afraid of. You should have done a little homework before making a fool of yourself, Gavin.
Why
Mr. Newsom, Governor Newsom, Governor Gavin.
And
I don't know what other books were banned in California. And look, it's not to say that the books were not also banned in Florida. Some of them, Dr. Seuss was pulled. I don't know where it was pulled from. I am not a proponent of restricting books.
But
I'll tell you one thing.
I'm curious.
I read American Psycho in high school.
Florida.
There's a funny backstory to it, but I will not. I may share it one day. Maybe I'll save some exclusive story time for vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. My English teacher in high school told me to go read him. She said, I think you'd appreciate reading American Psycho. Bret Easton Ellis. I read it. I don't think that book should be banned. I don't even think it should be banned. Well, from high school. I think if a parent allows their kid to read the book, they should be able to read it. Should it be mandatory reading? I think there is probably more timely classics out there than American Psycho. I think Less Than Zero is also, one of the book. I don't read all that many books, but it's one of the books where I read the book and saw the movie.
Probably read more books than
both American Psycho and Less Than Zero were phenomenal books, better than the movie. I liked Less Than Zero better than American Psycho. I thought American Psycho was, violence for the sake of violence. I appreciate the message behind all of it. I just remember from one of them, Not the price of entry is sin.
Where are we
That
going
was
with
a
this,
Arthur
Viva
Brown
Frei?
song. Oh geez, what was it? What was their the opening to one of them? I think it was the price of entry is sin. Anyhow, books should not be banned. Period. They should be age appropriate, and the parents should have the final say. So, but especially, how do you ban 1984? How do you ban To Kill a Mockingbird? Because it has a word in it that people find offensive when it's in a contextual, when it's in a context that's intended to highlight.
Came from. You're saying this guy's pointing
the
a finger
wrongness
at Florida.
of all that occurred. You think you're teaching people the right thing or denying them the ability to learn the right thing by banning these books? You know, gratuitous violence, gratuitous porn, fine. There's only so much time in the day that should be spent on the good stuff and not on the exploitive stuff.
What is good?
But 1984 shouldn't be banned. It should be mandatory reading. I presume I have to go back and revisit To Kill a Mockingbird. It should be, I presume, mandatory reading, not banned.
There are lessons to be derived from every and all things.
The Invisible Man,
way or another.
Robert Barnes told me to read it. I listened to it on audio. It should be mandatory reading. See previous super chat. Justice transcends this world. I'll have to go see if I can still pull it up. Time for parents to unite to secure their parental rights and implement solutions that remove unsupervised access to kids and anything impacting their mental, physical health in school entertainment. That's ambiguous. I mean, Pont and I agree. The only question is, there's going to be unsupervised access in the sense that they go to school 8 hours a day. We should just know it's on the curriculum, and the teachers should stay the heck out of children's personal lives. Except though, if a kid's being bullied at school, if there's some issues, they should stay out of the kid's personal life in as much as any involvement has to be shared with the parents. Period. There are very few reasons in schooling that anyone except maybe what do they call them? I went to see them when I was in high school. The people who give an advice counselor. You know what I'm talking about? Where there should be confidential discussion. I mean, a teacher should not know something about the kid that they don't disclose to the parents. Exceptions aside, and when those exceptions exist, the parents should know of that relationship of exclusivity. This is I'm not going to have a teacher thinking they know more about parenting my kid than me. I don't mind them having the discussions. I don't mind them teaching some stuff at school because we have the discussion with the kids when they get home. And if they're teaching them things that I think are politically charged, ideologically driven, political agendas, we'll have the discussion at home, and the kid's going to get exposed to it at some point in time. You can't shelter them from everything forever.
That's correct.
Fact checked. Winston would make a more suitable president. Hold on. Winston, would you make a better president than Joe Biden?
No.
For those who don't know, he breathed heavily, and it was super cute. Okay. Oh, shoot. That's right. Eric, I'm going live with Eric. Which of Eric's channels are you going to be on? Let me just text him right now and find out. And that reminds me, I've got to vacate the bladder. Oh, sorry. That's part of the text.
Who is Eric?
Which channel are we going to be on? ? I'll post the link in a few seconds. So that's it. So that's one more. The comic relief of today's stream. Gavin Newsom. These people. They don't stop. They don't stop for 1 second before stroking their own egos. They think they're owning somebody, and they move so quickly. I got to tell you something. Before I put out tweets that are sassy and that I think are owning somebody, I go through my own
that's his name, David,
tweet
folks,
history
so
just to make sure that I have not been guilty of those things myself. The most recent one was, and I was fairly certain, I just didn't want to forget, or I criticized someone. I said, you don't make fun of someone for what they look like. Don't call someone ugly. You're so ugly. Blah, blah, blah.
For anything.
Making fun of Nancy Pelosi's dentures. That's not my thing. I don't like it. I think it's cheap, and I think it's childish. Making fun of Beto O'Rourke's teeth in that picture where he's wearing the shirt, "Don't mess with kids, trans kids." Making fun of his teeth there and not the message of what he's saying is the wrong way to go. And so one time I said, when I was going to tweet out, "Don't make fun of people for what they look like," I went through my history just to make sure that I was not guilty of it myself. I did say that Justin Trudeau looked horrible in a tweet. And that was not to say make fun of him. That was, he looks horrible. He looks like the pressures of the job or the stresses
freshen my coffee. I'll be right back.
Geopolitical situations beyond his pay grade, or selling his soul.
Questions, comments, throw in
He
chat,
looks
please.
physically beaten down. He looks physically unwell, and I attribute it to what's going on in the world. But that's not. I mean, that's a different. It's a different. Maybe I'm making excuses for myself, but I think there's a distinction there. It's not to say he's ugly. Look at his stupid socks. Although I've talked about his socks because that's a decision, not an unchangeable characteristic. Guidance counselor, thank you. Yes, but these people they think they're going to make an own. Well, let's go see what these stupid Republicans in Florida, they're banning books, those morons. Let's go see what's in them. A, I'm ignorant because I've never read the classics. B, I'm ignorant because I don't even know that in my own state they're doing the exact same thing. Congratulations. You played yourself, Gavin. Okay. Shayna Swan's book, Countdown. It's not a political book. It's a science book. Have a wonderful day, Viva. And Fro Cult, love you all. Candace, thank you very much. Enjoy the day. And above all else, it's Friday. For anybody with a normal work schedule, Friday nights were the best nights of the week. Used to be the best television nights of the week when we were kids, when TGIF actually meant something. Okay, I saw some chats in here. Let's see this. Ponton.
TGIF.
My plan include implementing full surveillance video audio in school that is parent monitored with immediate response and actions to violations. This is good. This is like 1984 in school. This includes classroom cameras and student body cams. The classroom cameras, by the way, it was during COVID that I saw I was watching what the teachers were teaching my kids.
$11.11.
And if I were a malicious individual, I would have screen recorded and shared some of the things that I saw.
And 3 1s.
Oh, laid back news. Hunley. See you soon, Eric. I'll see you soon. Laid back news, people. It's there. Now, how do I can't pin this one
question, comments
in the current section. So everyone,
so what do you think?
That's what we're going to be.
We got any merit behind what
the stuff I saw some stuff that,
an arbitrary, subjective.
Maybe people, this is where Project Veritas and James O'Keefe might say it's one of those times where you have to hurt people to share what's going on out there. I would prefer to have the private discussion first and then see where it goes from there. But my goodness, some of the things I saw, some of the teachings I saw in class, it makes for good parent-child discussion when the child's mature enough. Before the child's mature enough, you can't even have that discussion. They just get indoctrinated at school, and they can't even understand why their mommy and daddy might contradict what their teachers told them.
Yeah, but you've been doing that.
Okay, let's see what else there was. There was one more.
There was one more.
That was Eric Hunley. Okay. So now,
what's the point here?
What else do we have? There's one more subject matter.
That's what we're running out of time. Have to look at.
Let's just go to let's make sure we get this now. This is Michael Geist. We're going to talk Canadian law stuffs.
Michael Geist.
For Americans or anyone abroad in Europe, it's probably too late. You probably already have stuff like this. In America, if you think this is purely Canadian and therefore not of interest to you, may I suggest stuff trickles downhill, as we say. And one way or another, Canada influences the U.S. and the U.S. influences Canada, and I dare say we influence each other, and that's why we're seeing this stuff. But this is Michael Geist, and if I'm not mistaken, I pulled this from his Twitter. No, I pulled this from a search. He's M Geist on Twitter. He's following this very closely, and his headline is, "Why has the government's defense of Bill C-11 been so cartoonishly misleading?" And this is the new minister. He replaced Guilbeault, who was selling us on Bill C-10, who was also, I'm not going to say cartoonishly misleading. I'll take it one step further. Cartoonishly dishonest. And so Bill C-10, everybody knows it was supposed to treat online broadcasters. It was initially sold as going for the Hulus, the Netflix, what else is there? HBO's online, to govern them the way the Broadcasting Act in Canada governs radio and television. The idea being that, it's the modern era. Nobody's watching TV. No one's listening to radio. But so everyone's online. And so, these broadcasters, which would have been governed on TV by the Broadcasting Act, are now operating freely on the interwebs. So the C-10 was going to put broadcasters under the governance of the Broadcasting Act, which would impose certain standards of content, certain criteria for Canadian content. It would require, I think, payment of certain amounts. It would provide for the imposition of fines in the event that those governed did not comply with the act. It was sold as only, it was going to apply to broadcasters, YouTube, Hulu, Netflix, and whatever, because they have found a way to circumvent existing law. It became exceedingly clear that they wanted to govern all online content. And whereas at one point the concern was that, hey guys, what you're doing now is going to cover individual social media accounts. And they said, oh no, that's not our intention. That was Guilbeault. And I'm not going to make fun of him because someone can accuse me of making fun of what might be a speech impediment, and that's not my intent at all. So I'm not going to do it. But Guilbeault comes out and says, that's not our intention at all. We don't want to go after your social media account. It's just intended to govern broadcasters. In Bill C-10, for those of you who don't know, they included an exclusion. It said this law will specifically not apply to social media accounts, to individual YouTube channels, to individual Facebook pages, to individual Twitter handles. The Liberal government in the dead of the night removed that exclusion. And then they were saying, well, why'd you remove the exclusion if the law is not going to cover individual social media accounts? Why'd you remove the exclusion? Guilbeault says in a convoluted, incomprehensible answer, the exclusion, it doesn't matter. We're not going to include them anyhow. But we removed the exclusion that specified that we were not going to cover them. Then later on admitted, yes, we're going to come after individual social media accounts if they're big enough that they can be deemed to be broadcasters. The law died because it never got through the Senate before the parliamentary session ended. The law was dead. Bill C-11 picks up from there. That's the context.
Rather atrocious manner overall. Peaceful protest.
I just want to see one chat before it disappears.
Should have found out.
You know what? Forget it. So that's the context to Bill C-11, and C-11 is
dialogue.
Not the predecessor, the one that comes after. Why has the government's defense of Bill C-11 been so cartoonishly misleading? Bill C-11, the Online Streaming Act that serves as the government's follow-up to Bill C-10, was the subject of debate. It's got to be debated. There's a first reading, second reading, third reading, and then essentially.
David's in Montreal.
I'm going to get clear on the process later.
I'm here right now in Toronto.
As the legislation slowly makes its way through the legislative process.
Most of the time.
There are still committee hearings to come, but it is readily apparent that many of the concerns that hamstrung Bill C-10 have returned. Virtually limitless jurisdiction, overbroad scope, and harmful discoverability provisions, because this would affect the way YouTube could display Canadian content. It was going to prioritize Canadian content, which means that it would deprioritize not Canadian content, even if it's created in Canada based on the law, which means that YouTube would have to algorithmically affect the viewability, the discoverability, which would prioritize certain content in Canada over other. And it would not be, I don't think it is now, but it would not be organically driven. So then we got
a certain bias, obviously.
Let's just read this here. While none of these concerns should come as a surprise, what is surprising is how ill-prepared the government appears to address the criticism. Well, they were ill-prepared the last time. Why would an incompetent government be any better off to cover up for their misdirection this time? Indeed, the communication strategy seems based primarily on presuming that Canadians won't bother to read the legislation they want, and will therefore take misleading assurances at face value. They will. They did last time. Why would it be any different? They did last time, and then they re-elected the Trudeau government, albeit with a minority. They re-elected the very same government that misled them on the law that they did not take the time to read. Consider the latest attempt to assuage concerns. A cartoon of Canadian Heritage Minister Pablo Rodriguez providing an assurance that the bill's changes won't affect individual Canadians, since the changes only apply to companies. The cartoon sparked it only applies to companies.
Here, folks.
How about if those individuals are operating their social media platform through a company for whatever the reason? There's a lot of, you can think of nefarious reasons. There's a lot of legitimate reasons. Protection from exposure. Tax reasons. The cartoon sparked an instant mashup that pointed to the direct effects of on digital-first creators. Further, the changes don't apply only to companies. Bill C-11 treats audio-visual content as programs subject to potential regulations. This was the same thing under Bill C-10. With exceptions that could easily capture TikTok or YouTube videos, the bill is about more than just large companies. They made a joke that Bill C-10 was effectively the rebel media bill, where what it clearly intended to govern and therefore suppress were the alternatives to state-funded media. Let's see. Did you know, this is a tweet from the Canadian Heritage. Did you know the Online Streaming Act would not apply to digital-first creators? Users of social media services would never face obligations. Michael Geist has been reliable. Once again, this is misleading. Let's just read this in highlight. While it is true that users will not be treated as broadcasters due to the Section 4.2 opens the door to regulating their content. They might not directly face obligations, but if their content is caught by the Act, the implications for digital-first creators is enormous and potentially damaging. We'll see what's in the bill after we pass it. Oh, so let's see here. I mean, we don't need to go through the whole thing. I'll clip this and you can read it. But the bottom line, it's just a little bit of history. It's a little bit of history repeating, recent history. The policy direction has two primary goals. First, it will focus on the importance of consultation and special consideration of the needs of equity-seeking groups. Second, the direction will make clear areas where regulation is needed, as well as areas where flexibility should be exercised. Concerned about the implications of the regulation of video games, Sorbo assured the House that the policy direction will also specify the government's intent when it comes to video games. And gaming is a very big industry in Canada, whether it's in Vancouver, Montreal, or here in Ontario. I will repeat again that video games are not to be regulated. How about Canadian... Nobody's going to read the law. By and large, nobody's going to care about the law because by and large, it doesn't... whether or not it could incidentally capture my mom's Facebook account, highly unlikely. That's not who they want to go after with it. That's not who it would indirectly capture in their net of any relevance or importance. It's not conspiracy. It is common sense that this is intended. First of all, it's a money grab. Everybody knows that. The government imposes regulations to create financial obligations and to create potential financial exposure from penalties. Yeah, I got to renew my license every year, and remind me, I got to do that again for my birthday. You don't renew your license, you get a bigger. I got the registration for my car, and I didn't sign the paper registration. I didn't sign it. I got the registration in the mail or wherever you get it, put it in my user manual in the car, didn't sign the piece of paper registration for my car. I got pulled over for speeding. I was going 128 in a 100. I came back from Ontario. Is this when it happened? Anyways, whatever. Ontario, the speed limit's 110. You get used to that. I got a ticket for not having signed my registration because apparently there's a provision in the Road Vehicle Safeties Act, whatever it's called, Code de la Sécurité Routière. You have to physically sign with a pen to paper your registration. I could have done it 30 seconds before the cop came to the car. I didn't know that this provision existed. $120 ticket for not having signed a piece of paper, which is the registration for my vehicle. I don't even understand the reason for it. More laws, less justice. Don't renew your corporate filings, tickets, fines. Anyways, setting that aside. No, it's not miles per hour, people. It's kilometers per hour. Even when I speed, I don't do it recklessly. So it's on the one hand a money grab of those who should be governed, legitimately, if you want to call it that, by the law. On the other hand, it's just another money grab because people who don't know of the regulations, nul n'est censé ignorer la loi. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Tickets up the wazoo. Annual filings. Failure to file, whatever. Failure to respect certain provisions, tickets. It's good for the government. And then the indirect. This is intended to suppress directly or indirectly by downgrading some content so that YouTube does not promote it and promotes other content, Canadian content. Who do you think YouTube would be compelled to promote? If I'm thinking out loud, CBC, Radio-Canada, Legacy Media, good old Canadian content. Who would they suppress? Maybe not JJ McCullough, because he creates enough Canadian content that it might be. JJ McCullough is another Canadian YouTuber. Great stuff also. But maybe not JJ McCullough, because he creates a lot of Canadian content. Maybe they would even promote JJ McCullough. Maybe they would even promote me on YouTube. Or maybe they wouldn't if they don't like the maybe JJ McCullough or I might be a little critical of the government or favorable of the opposition. Maybe then, Anyway, so that's it. Bill C-11, I'm going to follow it. I'd like to get Michael Geist on so he could explain where it's at, the process.
Michael Geist is an
because I know it goes through,
from what I remember.
Goes through public debate as laws should. Laws like vaccine passports,
best of my knowledge,
lockdowns, curfews. Those should have gone through
could be wrong, but
a public
that's what
debate
I
as
think.
well. Evidentiary hearings, et cetera, et cetera. Justin Trudeau's not a dictator. François Legault is not a dictator. They just passed legislation with no legislative process. But I know there's the debate process. I know there's a first reading, second reading, third reading. I know it goes through a vote in the House of Commons, the Senate, and then it gets royal assent. I don't know how long it takes. And I don't know where we are in that process. I just know that Bill C-11 is just as bad as Bill C-10. The attempt to cover up why it's just as bad as Bill C-10 is just as bad as when Guilbeault did it with Bill C-10. And in the interim, it could, if it passes, could and would meaningfully impact.
Get a haircut, David. That's all I got.
What we now understand and appreciate.
You need a haircut.
Being the the free
think?
internet.
I think he needs a haircut.
'Tis not true. Nobody will read the bill. Many will read it.
Maybe.
Many will send emails, call their MPs, senators, etc. When these avenues fall on deaf ears, many will show up in Ottawa and protest only to be shut down. What options remain?
Good point.
You can't save people if this is what democracy wants. They will vote themselves into their own silence. They can vote themselves into it. They just will not be able to vote themselves out of it because they won't be able to speak out against the government once a lot of these measures
50% of the population voice
your wife told you not,
and actually cast
your wife
a
told
ballot.
you
So come on now.
Not to only give us bad news. Good news. It's Friday. Good news. Well, I don't know who's going to be on the panel with Hunley, but it'll be a good panel. So that I believe is all that I had on the menu. Hold on, let me just see one more thing here. No evidence. Stream. Yeah, so that's what I had on the menu. Come on, the Gavin Newsom wasn't bad news. The good news is some people are fighting against it. Some politicians are fighting against it.
An arbitrary
the bad
assessment,
news,
my dear man. It was
the bad news is it seems that the world is going
to be honest with you,
it's falling off a cliff faster than it can be caught, and it doesn't seem that there's enough people out there who want to catch it. And so,
oh my,
you don't know where things go from here. Let me just go back to my there was other fun stuff which I think we can finish with here. The Viva Frei, and then I'm going to go clip some of this stuff and post it to Viva Clips. Okay, so we did it. We
Viva
did
Frei, Viva Clips.
Yeah, we're going to be following the
where does this stop? Where does it
malicious
end,
prosecution, the unsubstantiated or ill-founded prosecution of. Here, let's end on some good. I'm going to play the clip from Dan Bongino. Share. I won't play the whole thing because half of it is me talking, and for those of you who saw that yesterday, you'd have seen it already. But let's do this here.
Disney, a supposedly ridiculously claiming to be still a family-friendly company. They are the most anti-family company right now in America. Cancel everything associated with Disney.
I like Dan Bongino.
They're now saying that up to 50% of their cast and characters are going to be LGBTQ1A. I don't even know what the new thing is now.
So what's the matter with that?
So I've been searching around for some interesting takes on this. And Viva Frei, who has a great locals account, by the way, he's on Rumble as well. Viva Frei has a great take on this. He says, for those of you out there who don't believe in incentives, have you really thought about this? Joe, this was a fascinating take. That if Disney now says that its parts and its characters are going to be reserved for LGBT roles and they can only be performed by people who are LGBT, or else you'll be accused of cultural appropriation or something like that. Well, doesn't that incentivize people to in turn make sure they fit into that role?
Huh.
Great point by Viva Frei. Here, check this out.
If you're going to do what we don't need to hear that guy. Now, and then just...
Oh, no.
Brilliant observation.
Ah, yes. Okay, so there. Look, it's tongue in cheek. It does feel good. It does feel good to be complimented.
Oh my! What's happening to our feed?
for what you think is a worthwhile original thought. I'm human. Yesterday I did 2 interviews with Maxime Bernier, one in French, one in English. Oh, here's the Beto O'Rourke.
Maxime
Don't mess with
Bernier
trans kids.
used to be a progressive conservative.
I don't think he appreciates the way that could be read. Beto O'Rourke doesn't appreciate that he just made a compelling argument against hormone therapy for kids. Like, I don't understand what people think. I mean, respect, tolerance, and letting parents deal with issues with their children. I don't understand where this line is not respected, or where this line is. I just spat on my computer. Where this line is consistently crossed. Okay, that is I think about it. Yeah, and then we got into that was yesterday. Oh yeah, here's a good one. Stephen Taylor, a politician, a conservative member. Am I blocked yet? I'm not blocked. Okay, good. He says, no, Justin Trudeau isn't a dictator. Canada is a democracy. Trudeau is just very wrong about a bunch of important things. It is vitally important to Canada that we effectively oppose Trudeau. You discredit yourself and don't help the rest of us by overreacting. I will respectfully disagree with your opinion, Stephen. And I will just go to the dictionary of the definition of dictator, a person granted absolute emergency power. I'm sorry, why didn't I circle that one? Because I'm fairly certain that's exactly what Trudeau did, if only for a week, if only to freeze bank accounts of political adversaries and to lock up political prisoners. If only for a week. At the very least, he was a dictator for a week.
Using the Emergencies
I circled
Act,
one ruling in an absolute and often oppressive way.
Public Works Act.
I think that's fitting. So I think
you
may call it overreacting, and I think
Trudeau was
not calling
Prime
something
Minister
what it
during
is
the FLQ,
is not helpful.
Pierre Laporte. It was
now, where was it? Let's go back here. I think that's all right. Well, that's it. And then we got So, do you like stuff?
Simpsons.
Oh, classic. Right on time. And that's it. So that will do it for this morning, people. If you want to continue.
Is that it for
today? Hold on. I'm going to go
Monsieur?
back to the chat and just see if I have any questions here. That's it for the subject matter of the day. It's not just rage, and it's not to be blackpilled. This is going to be
not just
in
rage.
as much as Twitter is my ongoing diary. These daily live streams, or quasi daily live stream, not quasi, but almost daily live streams, they're going to be my therapy as well. And this is not just about talking it through and internalizing it and digesting it. It's about understanding it. It's about sensitizing other people to what's going on so that people can be informed. People can know how to look at things. They can know how to read. They can know when they're getting lied to, and they can know how to do their own research to make sure that
it's up
they
to
can
them
filter out their own, I say their own truth, but the truth.
To take what you have to say
between
as an alternative viewpoint,
between the
shedding
lines.
a different light.
Now let's see here.
It's
April Fools. I don't like.
I
really hate April Fools.
So
I guess I think you get to be an adult, and you end up hating April Fools because people think it's carte blanche to do really, really bad things. Okay, let's see if I got
people create a belief.
Yeah, well, they're vitamins. They're vitamins.
Doesn't mean that
the red
right
pill
or wrong,
is vitamin C, D, and zinc, and the blue pill is
What is the blue pill? Viagra.
I can't think of melatonin, something that helps you sleep.
Oh,
okay.
Melatonin. Okay.
Canada is not a democracy. Well, and then people are going to tell you the U.S. is not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic. We know the bottom line. Things are not working properly now, and there's only one way to make it better, and that's to try to sensitize people to what's going on. My biggest concern is that there are a lot of people out there who are now thinking.
That's what it is.
A lot of uncivil discourse and uncivil conduct is justified because social media has allowed everyone to remove the person from the discourse. And so people just think now anything is justified based on ideological perspectives and ultimate goal, because we have removed the human from the human interaction. And right now it's just it's ideological interaction. And that is nicht gut, as we say in bad German.
Oh my.
Okay, let's see what we got.
Wunderbar.
I am telling myself March 32nd and skipping April. Yep. Especially when you have kids, they want to like, today, okay, folks. The saran wrap on the toilet is funny today. For the kid. Although we now live in a house where,
where is summer? Get here.
Detritus, I believe, might be the right word. Urine and feces on the ground is not the grossest thing on earth anymore, just because of our dog situation. Thank you, Viva. Bless you. Keep up the good work. Look forward to you every day. Jay, thank you very much. What do we got? Oh, let me test this out, people. Eyal Naman. Viva. Shabbat Shalom. Okay, that's easy. You don't even have to read Hebrew to be able to do that. Same to you. And now I know what looks like an intertwined fist is the shekel. I never knew it. Yes, people. I can speak and read Hebrew. And I tried to learn German when I was 15. Nicht easy. It's not easy to learn another language once your brain has stopped.
German because it was afraid the Nazis
stopped developing
would win
in that
the war.
sense.
So, what
Viva,
is
could you
your
please
point, David?
someday have Attorney Tricia Lindsay, civil rights lawyer, speak? I have not. I'm going to Google. I don't want to say I don't know who she is, as though that's a.
Tricia Lindsay, never heard of her.
It's my own ignorance. I don't. There's a lot of people I don't know about. I screenshot it. I'm going to look it up, and I'm going to be on. Hold on a second. Let me just get the exact name of the channel. I finally. Sounds good. Hold on, it's right here. Oh, no, that's not right. Hold on. Just tell you what's coming. What's coming?
Reichert Law, I think it was. This is how I found this guy. He's a Canadian.
Don't Talk TV. Okay,
I'm from
Nicholas
Canada
Wansbutter.
as well.
I'm going to be on Don't Talk TV on April 20. I hope I did not double book something bad, but Attorney Wansbutter, I ran into him in Ottawa. I'm going to be on his show on April 20th. I think it's their 100th episode special. Viva, would you look into reaching out to Adam Kaut of the Firearm Policy Coalition for a sidebar? He's their leader counsel, a very knowledgeable Second Amendment, so American and not Canadian, I presume, based on your chat. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean,
that would be American.
Firearm discussion is not really. I mean,
the right
I have
to
nothing
bear
against
arms
it. Maybe even have him on with
and its use and why
Runkle the Bailey, who's a firearms attorney in Canada. The issue has become something of a more pressing issue in Canada because of the
people have
prohibited firearms
that
have been covered by Justin Trudeau's order in council. Viva, we have ways of making you talk. Oh yes, very good. Let's see who we got here. Okay, Viva. Professor Matthew Hennigar would make for a great conversation on the Canadian Constitution. Oh, geez, thanks for reminding me. I got to get Brian Peckford on. And I believe now we're going to be able to organize Brian Peckford. I'll go for it for next week. Is that a pink phone? Yes, it is. Because it's very difficult. I've said this many times. It's very difficult or more difficult to lose a pink iPhone in there case than a black one. Or oddly enough, I thought yellow was good. Yellow is no good when it's autumn and your phone falls into leaves. Pink is the best color to always be able to quickly find your phone if you've misplaced it.
Black phone.
Viva works very hard. It's stuff I'd be doing anyhow because I'd be reading all this stuff. I would be looking into it. I'd be trying to understand it. It's Ikigai. It's the most beautiful concept on earth. Hold on. Let's end it with the white pill, people. This will be something of a white pill.
What is the white pill?
I'm gonna get a graphic of this. I know I've talked about it before. Ikigai, meaning I want to show this. Here you go. Boom, shakalaka. Let me just do this here. Share 40. Okay, we got 15 minutes to the next live stream. That'll give me time to hydrate and dehydrate if you get my drift. What is Ikigai and how can it change my life? It's beautiful. Let me just make sure that we're all seeing this so that I get rid of that cookie thing. I don't want to reject it because then I won't be reject. Okay, good. Ikigai is a Japanese concept that means your reason for being. Iki in Japanese means life and gai describes value of worth. Your Ikigai is your personal Ikigai is your personal life of your bliss. It's what brings you joy and inspires you to get out of bed every day. Okay, that's very poetic. Get out of here. Sorry, not to be mean. I'm not subscribing. Here it is. Japanese concept meaning, and once you see this, people, you'll never unsee it. And I'm not saying like I still have trouble getting out of bed sometimes, and I still have trouble sleeping because unfortunately my Ikigai means trying to understand the things that are
energy
potentially destroying the world in which we live. But whatever, what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, because everybody needs to eat nonetheless. What you are good at,
whatever I will be,
and it's beautiful. What you love and what you're good at is passion. What you're good at. I love this. I absolutely love this. What you're good at and what you can be paid for is a profession. And let me tell you this. I was good at being a lawyer. I got paid for being a lawyer. I did not have love for being a lawyer. And I'm not sure that the world needs another lawyer. Maybe the world needs another honest, good lawyer, but put that one aside. That's where it ends. I was good
What's
at being a
an honest
lawyer,
good
and I
lawyer? It's
got
all
paid for being a
arbitrary
lawyer,
and
but I
subjective.
did not love it.
Understanding the rule
in fact,
of law
I hated
and
it.
manipulating it.
It in
to-
fact
to
turned my
get your
stomach,
point.
or stressed
to,
out my stomach.
derive an
And then you
outcome.
got what you can be
Basic.
paid for, what the world needs, vocation. I've got to admit, I don't know the difference between vocation and profession. Oh, I mean, maybe
Okay.
you're not good at it. Okay, I see. So maybe what you can be paid for, you're not good at. I guess you wouldn't get paid for it very long. Or what you love, what the world needs, mission. When all of those overlap, people, when all for what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, what the world needs, and I think the world needs honest truth. That's your ikigai. And it's the most, it was the one day where I understood, if you can succeed, if you can make money, that's not the expression. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I was doing this before anything,
Valid point.
before it was
That's
even
good.
a
Yeah.
prospect of a sustainable YouTube channel. Ikigai, people. Beautiful. Okay, with that said, everybody, may I suggest that, oh shoot, hold on, before we get there, let me just go to Rumble. I don't want to neglect anything there. Do we have any Rumble rants to address today? No.
Yeah, so he gets Brian Peckford
But
or anybody
yesterday,
of importance
I forgot to get
we'll
to them
get on.
during
We'll open
the
up
stream.
the dialogue. There's not much here to
Scroll
talk
through all
about
of my
today other than
screenshots.
0-point energy
Took a
theory
picture of dinner
or
'cause it was
Casimir cavity, which
very
I'm
symmetric.
sure
Oh,
you
here we go.
understand.
We had
Quantum
yesterday,
physics.
HCLKBT says, can you comment on the recently published study showing that IVM does not work? We actually covered that one today. IMHO, there are at least 6 fatal flaws in the study, which was designed to fail, or the investigators were totally inept. That was from a $20 super rant, Rumble rant. Then we had $5 from Find and Truth. Thank you for speaking up. Then we had $5 from HCTBT. It says,
program
Resid used to hospital patients is
parasites in the
illogical.
body.
Oh, the medication. By this time, most patients very ill and in hospital, post-viral. Remdesivir was not good. Not medical advice, I'm telling you, people. Okay. Thank you. That was from yesterday. And then we had Viva, You Keep Freezing by B. Baptist, but I think that was his.
will.
Okay. So with that
believe
said,
it
people,
won't,
may I
They won't.
humbly
Very
request
simple.
that you all, if you're so inclined, we're going to be on Eric Hunley. Great channel, Laid Back News. Eric Hunley with Mark Robert, America's Untold Stories. Just plug out. I don't know if Duran are still live with Coach Red Pill. And you all know where else
if they
to
go
go
live
for,
and I see it, we're going to rebroadcast.
even
and
if you
comment
disagree with
on
it,
so,
analysis, and you should get analysis
I'll
from
definitely
all
get
sources, from
involved
people
with
you
that,
agree
folks.
with, because it feels good when someone you respect tells you what you already believe. It feels
So I like
a
shedding
little
different light
discomforting
on
when
these
someone you respect
topics as well.
contradicts what you think you believe. And it is always good to challenge what someone is saying, even if you respect
Ask
them
the
and
right
agree with them.
questions.
Get someone
No
else's
doubt
opinion who
about it.
disagrees with them, because you might actually just discover another element of truth in
Absolutely.
that.
Ask
With
the
that
right
said, peeps,
questions,
Sunday
folks.
night live stream with Barnes for sure. And, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll see everyone else on Hunley's channel. Peace.
I'll say, so you guys should know about Barnes. He does this thing with this American Lawyer every Sunday. So listen, thanks for watching. I didn't find really anything of substantial value. I think, his rant about Gavin Newsom, take it with a grain of salt. We all can do that. I would have liked to have seen him bring up Ron DeSantis so we could have a little bit of a dialogue back and forth. So listen, guys, thanks for watching. So when we get something, I thought we get something a little more interesting, but when we get something more interesting, we'll be going live and we'll be talking to you soon about it. Questions, comments, throw in the chat, and we'll be going live as soon as we've got something with some meat on the bones. Talk to you soon. Love and peace to everybody, and love and peace to the Ukrainian and Russian people that they need it. This is absolute BS, what's going on there, and it's just the way it is. Take care, folks. Love you all. Ciao for now.